Good evening, everybody. How are you this evening? Doing good? I'm going to turn myself to where I can see you a little bit better. So we've got a great group here tonight. Thank you all for being here and showing up and being live with us as we go through the supplement combining class. So I grabbed an essential oil to get the class started. Not many people have this oil, but this is dill oil. And it is one of those really youthful, summery scents that I actually, when I have the dill vitality, I actually love to cook with it. It tastes really delicious in things like potato salad and any type of summer salads that you have. So I wanted to share that with you before we jumped right in, started going with all of these supplements, because it's one of those oils that if you love the smell of dill pickles, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to you. So it's a great one to grab and try, and not that many people have it. So we have a ton of content to get through tonight. If we make it through this entire document, it will be a miracle, because I know that lots of questions are going to come up as we go. I can tell you this document has taken, I've been working on this document for about a month, and it's taken many hours of input to get it to where it is. I still cannot claim that this is a 100% complete document. So you may, through our interactions on social media and our interactions over time, feel free to continue to reach out to me and say, hey, Lindsay, there's this other thing that I read about online. What do you think about it? And that way this document can continue to evolve and become something that's even more meaningful for everybody within Young Living. So I will tell you, we have a major overhaul of the website coming in January. So in January, you can expect to see completely new imagery, completely new user experience. We're going to be offering 101, 201, and 301 classes, and there's going to be a lot. The overall scope and goal is to create a video for every single Young Living product and continue to grow it over time. So it's been a major endeavor. We've got about 50 videos so far. We're going to have at least 50 more before we launch. So it's going to be a great experience, and I'm excited to announce to all of you that as subscribers, you will be grandfathered in to the new website. So you will get to see the entire user experience. You will get to experience all of the new content, the new layout. I thank you so much for your patience. I know my website can be glitchy. It's not always the easiest to follow, but we've got an amazing strategy coming. So I'm going to keep bringing you stuff. You guys keep inspiring me and bringing me more ideas. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So if you haven't seen my note, please do check your email, because you're going to save your hand a lot of writing if you've got that document in front of you. Okay, so this document is built into a lot of different sections. So the first section that we're going to go over is supplements to avoid the overuse of. So we want to avoid overuse of all of our fat-soluble vitamins. So that's the first 4 that you see listed there. Vitamins A, D, E, and K. So vitamin A is found in Master Formula, and as I said, please help me double check. This is not an easy document to put together. Vitamin E, Master Formula and Omega Gize. Vitamin D, Master Formula, Omega Gize, MindWise. Vitamin K, Master Formula, as well as the new Super Cal Plus, both contain vitamin K. Cascara, another one that you're going to want to avoid overuse of. And the final one on this chart is iodine. So the first four that we see, vitamins A, D, E, and K, or I've got them listed A, E, D, K, but that's not normally how they're said. It's normally a deck, like a deck of cards. That's how you can remember. So the way that you can help remind yourself of this is that all the fat-soluble vitamins are a deck. And then if it's any other vitamin, it's a water-soluble vitamin. So the reason that we need to avoid overuse of fat-soluble vitamins is that our bodies are made of fats. And so we accumulate all of these vitamins inside our fat. So this can lead to something called hypervitaminosis. It's pretty rare, but it's really hard to figure out like what is going on. You can have a whole slew of unrelated symptoms, and until someone tests for these vitamin levels, you may not be able to figure it out. So what do I recommend? We'll stick to those recommended daily allowances. So that's your RDA, that's your middle column in the chart. So vitamins have government standards for the recommended daily allowance for how much you should take. I know the most common concern that people have is that there are many people who take much higher doses of vitamin D. So when you think about vitamin D, if you know somebody with kidney disease, they will be easily taking 50,000 units a week, whereas the recommended daily value is 600 units a day. So IU, that's the unit you see there, stands for international unit. So why do we have that? Well, that is because people with kidney diseases tend to have alterations in their calcium and vitamin D and parathyroid hormone metabolism, and so they need more vitamin D. It's another class for me to explain why, but do remember we need to encourage people to take D3 instead of D2, okay? So if you haven't heard me talk about that, go find a video about Master Formula. Another thing, this document is not a substitute for medical advice. You know, talk to your healthcare professional. I am not your healthcare professional. And if you really want to keep it safe, always follow the label instructions. Okay. So the next one that we want to avoid overuse of is Cascara. So remember, Cascara is inside Comfortone and Rehemogen. Cascara, it doesn't have a recommended daily allowance because it's not a critical nutrient. It's an herb. So Cascara, it is, so if you've heard me teach Comfortone, remember this arm movement. So Cascara increases the wave-like motion. It supports that wave-like motion that helps to push stool out of the gut. Well, if you do that a lot, number one, you get diarrhea. That's not nice. Number two, even worse, your gut becomes dependent on that extra get up and go, and then you don't, you know, you can't do it on your own. Your gut has a protective mechanism, and if you are having diarrhea, if your gut is moving way too quickly, your gut just says, whoa, I need all of that. It needs all that water, all those electrolytes. And so it slows it down and it stops responding to your natural signals from your brain. And so Cascara is not something you want to take too much of over time. The next one is iodine. So iodine can cause iodine toxicity, and it can also cause an increased risk of thyroid problems, which is ironic because iodine also improves thyroid problems. When you take isolated iodine in ways that it has been studied, there's no evidence that any Young Living product can improve it. But we know that there is a balance that must be struck with iodine. So Thyromin has really high levels of iodine. It's a lot that's in there. And then there is also Nisha Nitro, which has a small amount of iodine. So Thyromin, if you are someone who has any type of thyroid imbalance, you really, really have to go get your thyroid checked if you choose to use Thyromin. So it doesn't mean that you can't take it, but you do need to go get it checked. Okay, let's move on. So now we've talked about like what we don't want to overuse. Let's move on and talk about combinations. Okay, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this table. So this is the big crux of the class. So Life9. Life9 has a lot of interactions with other supplements. So when you think about Life9 and supplements that you may want to avoid avoid the combination with, number one, think all of them. Just think all of them. If you can only remember one thing, take Life9 by itself. That's the big take-home message. But the really important ones are the ones that are heavily concentrated in essential oils. So think about your supplements that are gel capsules full of oil. Think about those. So you have products like Inner Defense, Digest and Cleanse, Sleep Essence, Longevity. Arguably, you could put Sleek CitraSlim on this list as well. That's because when you use tons and tons of different essential oils, you don't have a clear picture of how that is going to interact with the good and bad bacteria in your gut. And so if your main purpose is that you want to repopulate your gut with good bacteria, putting in essential oils that may impact bacteria either positively or negatively may not be your best bet. So any questions? You guys are pretty quiet tonight. I think the handout coming in advance is like really helpful. So I apologize that I haven't done that in the past. So the next one, Omega Gies. So Omega Gies, you want to use caution with your blood pressure medicines because there are the data to suggest that certain omega-3 fatty acids may interact with blood pressure medicines and decrease blood pressure to a level that you don't want it. This is not to make the suggestion that omega-3s, and especially those in Omega Gies, can decrease blood pressure on their own. It is simply the drug interaction that we need to be aware of. Omega Gies, you should also use caution with blood thinning medicines. Interestingly, this isn't as important for things like warfarin. You can really use many of the prescription medicines with omega-3s. If you are taking omega-3s with any type of prescription blood thinner like warfarin, just be sure to discuss it with whoever is monitoring your INR, because warfarin levels can always be adjusted depending on what else is going on in your life. But we know that there is an interaction with ginkgo biloba, ibuprofen, and aspirin. So ibuprofen, over-the-counter medicine, AKA, so also known as Advil, Motrin. So just be aware that that has an increased risk of bleeding. And then many people take a small dose of aspirin, especially if you have any type of heart disease. Ginkgo biloba, to my best knowledge, and there's a lot of ingredients and a lot of herbs in Young Living's products. So if you find it, let me know. But to the best of my understanding, there is no ginkgo in Young Living products. But help me out. I could have missed it somewhere along the way. All right, next big one, and this generates a lot of questions, is about the data about Nisha wolfberries with blood thinning medicines. Here is the take-home message. Is there evidence to suggest that wolfberries, also known as goji berries, may interact with blood-thinning medicines and increase the risk of bleeding? Yes, there is some data to suggest that. So what do we need to keep in mind? Number one, whoever is monitoring your anticoagulation, you need to just tell them that. That is the most important thing. Here is the other thing. You also need to know the signs and symptoms of bleeding. So talk to your provider, whoever is educating you on your anticoag, ask them to teach you the signs and symptoms of bleeding. I could teach you, but it tends to scare people. And so it's not my, it's just, the signs of bleeding. If your nose is bleeding, if you got extra bruises, so if you're pooping blood, anything black, that's not good. The other big education point on this matter is consistency. When it comes to the use of any supplement alongside medicines, blood thinning medicines, consistency is key. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you drink Ningxia Red 2 to 4 ounces a day, every single day, kudos, you are consistent in the way that you use the product. If you have never had Ningxia Red and then you drink an entire bottle at a Ningxia Red chugging contest, you are putting yourself at risk for a drug interaction. The way that especially warfarin, but many blood thinning medicines work is they interact specifically with certain foods, beverages, but when you're more consistent, you can titrate it to the right point. So, it's one of those things. I educate people. It's totally up to you if you choose to use it, but if you choose to use it, talk to your healthcare provider. Protect yourself by knowing the signs and symptoms of bleeding and be consistent, okay? So Agile Ease. Agile Ease is an interesting discussion because Agile Ease has 2 ingredients. One of the ingredients may increase the risk of bleeding, and the other ingredient may increase the risk of blood clots. So this too is an important one to consider. So Agile Ease contains wintergreen, which wintergreen essential oil may theoretically interact with wintergreen essential oil, sorry, all the dings. Wintergreen essential oil may increase the risk of bleeding. It is 98% plus salicylic acid. And so that has been shown to be associated with bleeding. Again, it doesn't mean you can't use it. You just need to use it with some consistency and not overuse it. That's another big thing. Just don't overuse essential oils. Just in general, just use small amounts, and that dramatically increases their safety. Okay. So Agile Ease falls into the same boat. If you're going to use it consistently. For Agile Ease, you need to know both the signs and symptoms of bleeding and blood clots. So it adds a layer to the discussion points because you've got that wintergreen, but you also have vitamin K, which we will get to in a moment. So we talked about vitamin K above because we know that vitamin K can build up, but it also directly interacts with warfarin. Warfarin is also known as Coumadin, if you know anybody on Coumadin. Okay, next one. The next one is a drug interaction with 3 different drug classes. You have the bisphosphonate drugs. These are drugs that treat osteoporosis. These are drugs like Fosamax and Boniva. These drugs, if you ask people, like if you know somebody's asking you about Master Formula and you know that they're an older person, and just ask them, are you on any medicines? And then you have, if they say, well, I'm on this bone medicine, but I only take it once a month or once every 2 weeks, you can bet your money that it's a bisphosphonate of some variety. So bisphosphonates, first one. Quinolone antibiotics are the second one. These are things like, the common trade names are Cipro, which somebody might be on for a UTI, or even not usually, really just UTIs, and then sometimes some blood infections. Levaquin is another one. So Levaquin is for lung. So if somebody gets pneumonia, they might be on a Levaquin. I'll just leave it at that. If somebody's on an antibiotic, if you can just remember, is it Levaquin or Cipro, or what's the other one? Moxifloxacin. So levofloxacin, Cipro, and then Moxie. So if you can just remember to ask them, are you on any antibiotics? That's going to help keep them safe. The third one, and probably the most important one in this class, is Synthroid and all other types of thyroid medicines. So this comes up again and again and again and again. Everybody wants to know about their thyroid. So if somebody's on thyroid medicines, this is an important one to remember. So with Master Formula, Super Cal Plus, Mega Cal, and again, y'all, double check me. I'm looking at this list going, oh no, I think I forgot multigreens as well. So what we need to look for are things called, if you look in your third column is where I'm reading from. If you think about it, we are looking for things called divalent cations. So cations are positively charged. Divalent means that there are a +2 charge. That means that you've got your little atom and it's got 2 extra little protons on there, okay? So that positive charge, what happens? Why does it interact with these medicines? It does it because these medicines have a relatively negative charge. So you stick them together like a magnet, and what happens? You poop it out because you can't absorb it anymore. So bisphosphonates, think about where they need to go in the body. They need to go to your bones. They need to go down into your bones. Well, what are your bones made of? Your bones are made of calcium. Calcium is one of these divalent cations inside Master Formula, Super Cal, Mega Cal, possibly others, that sticks to all, calcium is going to stick to something negative. So if you're trying to make a drug that sticks to something positive, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go, I'll create something that's got a negative charge on it. So bisphosphonates are called that because they have a big old phosphate group in them. Phosphate groups, negatively charged, sticks to calcium. Quinolone antibiotics, similar interaction, different chemistry that I'm not going to bother to explain, but it all comes down, basically the structure of this one is a little bit different, but it all comes down to magnets. It's just positive sticking to negative. And then Synthroid, what have we already talked about that both supports and can potentially harm the thyroid gland? Iodine. Iodine, big old massive electron cloud of negative energy. So what happens when you take Master Formula and these negatively charged drugs together is that they stick together like magnets, and then you poop them out. You cannot absorb them after that point. So how do we deal with this? Well, you want to separate these drugs, okay? So bisphosphonates, it doesn't matter quite as much, but Synthroid, it matters a whole heck of a lot. So it saddens me how many people I have reach out to me, and they say that they're on thyroid medicine and they can't figure out why their thyroid can't come into balance. If you can remember to ask people one question about their thyroid, if they are on thyroid medicine, ask them how they take it. Because if they take it alongside any vitamins or foods, think about how many foods have calcium, magnesium, and zinc in them. It binds all of their thyroid medicine, and therefore they're not getting any of the benefit from it. And so common times what you will see is doses of medicines going up and up and up and up, and nobody's asked just this simple question. So thyroid medicines, and in my opinion, Thyromin as well, and we'll get to this in a moment, in my opinion, both of those should be taken first thing in the morning with no food. If you're combining Thyromin and something like Synthroid, I encourage you, take the thyroid medicine as prescribed first, wait a couple hours, allow your prescription to work, and then take the Thyromin as a dietary supplement after the fact. If we are on prescription medicines, you know, we do want to encourage people to use them as prescribed, because here's the thing. If you've got somebody who, reach out in your community, somewhere in your community, there is a pharmacist who, if you are taking medicines or you know people who are, there is a pharmacist somewhere that is as passionate as I am about safe medication use. They will teach you all of these things. They might not be as entertaining as I am online, but, and they may not know Young Living's products, but they can ask these simple questions about, why is my thyroid not out of whack? Well, let's figure out how you're taking your Synthroid. Okay, moving on. Any questions as we go through? You guys are so good tonight. We're getting through lots. All right, here we go. Feel free, ask some questions. Okay. Next one, warfarin. Okay, warfarin, the way that warfarin works is that it blocks the vitamin K. It blocks vitamin K. So any vitamin K product that Young Living has a potential drug interaction for warfarin. The ones that I found were Master Formula, Super Cal Plus. I put vitamin K just so we could all remember. Omega Jais and Mindwise. I see a hand raised. Vicky, did you want to say something? Hang on, she's talking. Let's see what she's got to say. Hey there.
You mentioned about the multigreens.
Yes.
Was that something to do with the Synthroid and all that? Is there something I should worry about taking multigreens?
Let me take a look. Let me just pull up the formula really quickly because I'll be able to see. But yes, we did mention okay, I remember why multigreens came up. It's coming up later in the class. So multigreens, theoretically, it's not a Synthroid problem. There's nothing in here that, to the best of my knowledge, interacts with Synthroid, because what you have in here is a lot of seaweeds, and then you have a lot of amino acids. So there's nothing in there that makes me worry about Synthroid, but there is an ingredient that we'll get to later that gives me some concern for children under the age of 1. So theoretically, it depends. It depends on who you ask, but I would need to look at the vitamin K concentration in each of these seaweeds to make a decision about whether or not I thought it would interact with warfarin. But there's nothing in there that makes me worry about Synthroid. So, okay. Kara, does Thyromin work if someone does not have a thyroid? We can't actually make that claim. If you would like to give Thyromin a try, I encourage you to do that. But because the indication for a thyroid removal is thyroid medication for life, I can't make the claim that a Young Living product will replace a medicine. So give it a try if that's what you want to do. But I encourage you in these non-compliant areas, as well as the gray areas, the more that we can empower people to make their own judgment calls, the better. So, you know, just I put the power back in that other person and just say, you know what, it's totally up to you, because I can't say that. You try it if you want. So back to warfarin. So warfarin, the way that it works is it blocks vitamin K. So vitamin K is a critical factor in your clotting cascade. So if you cut your finger, it activates a really complicated cascade of events that causes your body to clot. Well, if you are at an increased risk of blood clots, or if you have had a blood clot in the past, you may be on this blood thinning medicine called warfarin that blocks vitamin K's action from happening. So, like, just be upfront with your healthcare providers, y'all. The best thing that you can do is disclose all of your sources of vitamin K. And the other best thing you can do is be consistent with it. So I've hammered that point a couple times. So we'll move on. Comfortone. Comfortone actually also contains echinacea. And echinacea is a theoretical immune support herb. And there is some data to suggest that it may interact with prednisone and other steroid medicines. So if people have asthma attacks and they're on steroids, or if they have really bad allergies on steroids, Comfortone is not the supplement for them. Believe it or not, if you take supplements that help to support sleep alongside your sleep medicines, you get more sleepy. There you go. So encourage people, don't really, for real, like, don't sleep essence and drive, like, don't Pro and drive. They are meant to put you to sleep. They have melatonin in them. So, and please don't Ambien and drive. I don't know if you've read like the horror stories online about people taking Ambien before they get in a car, or like they have conversations with their spouses that they don't remember at all. Just, you know, don't sleep aid and drive, please. And don't do it in work. So, okay, this next one, Angela, the ingredient in Comfortone is echinacea that may interact with it. And if you don't have your handout, check your email and it is there. And so you can get the handout to help you take notes. Okay, the next one. Okay, I have never found St. John's wort in any Young Living product, but that doesn't mean that I am 100% correct. I've looked really hard, so I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. I don't think it's in any Young Living product. But this is such a major interaction that I have to tell you about it so that you can tell your friends. St. John's wort directly interacts with birth control pills. It increases the metabolism of birth control pills, which means when you increase the metabolism of something, what do you know? If you have a friend and you say, girl, I wish I had your metabolism, what are you basically saying? I wish, you know, you are tiny. That's what you're saying. You're like, you are a skinny, skinny girl. If you can think about that, if you increase the metabolism of your drug, you decrease your drug level. Well, if you are a woman who is trying not to get pregnant by taking oral contraceptive pills, the last thing you want is something eating up your birth control. It is well known to cause babies. So educate your friends about this, because I am shocked that nobody knows this. I remember when I first found this out when I was in my early 20s, I'm like telling all my friends, like, are you on birth control pills? You can't be taking that St. John's wort. So, so the cool thing about St. John's wort, and I can talk about this because it's not in any of Young Living's products, is it is a really effective antidepressant herb. So if you know somebody who is really struggling with sadness, just this may be another alternative for them. Therefore, guess what? There's a drug interaction with antidepressant medicines. So there's a drug interaction with antidepressant medicines because it increases the risk of a dastardly condition called serotonin syndrome. So if people are on medicines that increase serotonin, and then you throw in something like St. John's wort that also may help to support the levels of serotonin, you can end up getting way too high a serotonin, which can be really bad. You can have like severe pallor and like really bad fevers, and you get like out of your mind for a while. Okay, let's move on. So another supplement to just use some general caution with is PD8020. So PD8020, it's one of Young Living's most simple supplements. The marketing materials write themselves. So PD8020, that's easy. It's got 2 ingredients. It's 80% pregnenolone and 20% DHEA. Boom. You're a genius. You just explained everything about PD8020 in like 2 seconds flat. Okay, so the thing about PD8020 is that the DHEA level in it, that's one of the ingredients, is, so I'm going to explain this fast, so if it doesn't come through, let me know. In your steroid cascade, you have cholesterol, and then you go through an ingredient called pregnenolone, so that's your P in PD8020 is pregnenolone. Then you can go one of 3 different ways. You can go towards progesterones, testosterones, or the mineralocorticoids, which includes your cortisol. We'll leave it that simple. If you go down that testosterone, progesterone pathway, you land on an ingredient, you land on a naturally occurring hormone called DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. Pulled that out of there. So this D in here, what it does for us is it drives directly towards testosterone. Testosterone can then get converted into estrogens, but it's gonna have to go through that testosterone, and you're putting, with PD8020, you're putting a big old chunk of that DHEA that directly steers the ship towards testosterone. So when we think about what supplements do we just use with a little bit of caution, DHEA is one of them, and PD8020 has the highest dose of DHEA of any of the supplements. Women with PCOS should not use DHEA. Because why? Because it drives the ship directly towards testosterone. You already got too much testosterone if you've got PCOS. And so I encourage caution with things like Powergize. I will go ahead and just be forthright on this. There are other supplements that contain DHEA. It's just this document kept growing and growing and growing on me. So you guys help me finish it up. Okay, ICP. ICP is one of those supplements that contains cascara. So the combination of ICP, Comfortone, and the Essentialzymes You can also add Rahemagen to this list. So you don't want to be, sorry, I just said this wrong. Comfortone is what contains the Cascara. ICP does not. This should be reversed. I'm so sorry. So make yourself a note. So the Comfortone and the ICP, just flip them. So your Comfortone is what's really driving the diarrhea. And then you can add Rahemagen to the list in the center. So ICP, Comfortone, and essential zymes may all result in a diarrhea. Now you may say, well, Lindsay, that's the cleansing trio. I know, but it still can cause diarrhea, and you still need to teach people to back off if they get any of the diarrhea. ICP contains a lot of fiber, and so too do the Sleek bars, Juva Spice, and Juva Power. And so if people are using those, be sure to tell them, number one, drink plenty of water. That's your biggest defense against the fiber-induced constipation. So that is the end of another big chunk. So any questions? I'll be happy to answer those. I gotta take a sip of water. Give you a second to put in some questions if you got them. Or if anybody wants to speak, just raise your hand. Okay, so let's move on. There are very, yes, Angela, you'll be able to rewatch time and time again. Everybody spread the word. All of these videos are always posted in the watch section of the website. If you can't get in to one of the webinars, just be sure that you are logged in on the website. And that's gonna be the big thing that holds most people back. So, okay, if you are pregnant, so in general, I leave it up to the individual woman to decide what's right for her if she is pregnant. But I do have some strong opinions about a few things. My strongest opinion is for estro. Friends do not let friends estro while pregnant. Estro contains blue cohosh, which increases the risk of hemorrhage, especially towards the end of pregnancy and during labor. It is an old wives' tale. It's a folk remedy that blue cohosh should be used to induce labor, as well as for support during labor. No. Do not use estro while pregnant. Comfortone and Rahemagen is like my medium strength opinion. Comfortone and Rahemagen, think about what they do. What does that Cascara do? It increases downward and outward muscle momentum. Well, there is some data to suggest that if your intestines are moving fast, so too does your uterus. And so the last thing that you want when you're, 6.5, 7 months pregnant is increased downward and outward momentum. This is certainly not to suggest that Cascara or any type of substance that increases peristalsis should be used for the onset of labor. If for no other reason, like I know you're desperate sometimes, but think about how messy your labor is going to be. A lot of people try to use laxatives and other herbs and supplements that support peristalsis movements, but I'm like, ugh. I've been at one too many dirty childbirths, y'all. One too many. That was something I had to do way back in the day. Props to all the midwives out there. Okay. The next one, which is like my lowest opinion of these three, is ashwagandha root. So ashwagandha root is a much more like theoretical, does it not? But I also just sit back and go, well, if the primary like function of ashwagandha root is to it really has more masculine energy than feminine energy, I don't want to be pouring all that masculinity in on top of my energy. Personally, I also would not use PD8020 while pregnant. I really would stay away from like most of the hormone support products. I didn't have a ton of time to really dig down into my opinion about DHEA and pregnenolone support, but really, when you are pregnant, your hormones are already so high that you don't necessarily need to be pouring more on. If we keep scrolling, we can look at some supplements that you may choose to avoid if you are pregnant. So things like essential zymes. So there are essential oils that women choose to avoid while they're pregnant and nursing. And I have no problem with any essential oil that any woman wants to avoid while she's pregnant or nursing. I think the data is fuzzy enough on most fronts that there is a lot of different room for interpretation. I do encourage you, just talk to your healthcare providers. I know it's difficult conversations, but if we don't start the conversation and inspire our healthcare providers to learn more, how do we expect to change the trajectory? The more that we can inspire them to do their own research and come back to you with like an actual formed opinion, the better off we all are. So some women choose to avoid fennel, anise, and peppermint while they're pregnant or nursing. Women choose to avoid lemon oil, nutmeg. I mean, the list goes on and on. In my personal opinion, and I'm going to have to type this in for you because this isn't in this document. I'll answer your Progestins Plus in just a second. The only constituent that is really, really, really hardcore dangerous in women who are pregnant, like in real low doses, in like normal amounts, is a constituent called sabinyl acetate. And the good thing is nobody is selling you those oils. So there is, and I'm going to probably butcher the spelling of this. It's So there is an oil called Juniperus fitzariana, and it is real not good in pregnant women. But the good thing is you don't have to worry about that because nobody's making it. If a woman comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, I'm terrified, I don't want to use any essential oil, what do I do? Number one, share as many personal experiences as you can. And it doesn't have to be, if you don't have kids, share experiences that you've seen from others. I don't have kids. I talk about what everybody else does with their kids. The other thing is, feel free to comfort people and allow them to feel that empowerment of, when it comes to essential oils during pregnancy and lactation, it's really about the dose. It's about the dose. Use really small amounts of essential oils in diffusers, in the air, dilute them on little kids, take basic safety precautions. Okay, so that's what it comes down to for all of these essential oils. And then as you see on this document, I have cortisol, but I would also include PD8020 as well as anything that has the DHEA and ashwagandha root in it. So, okay, I get asked, about Marcia, the document is in your email box. You can go and download it there. Tracy, what about Progestins Plus during pregnancy? It's up to you, but in general, your progesterone levels are really, really high during pregnancy. Progesterone is, in and of its essence, a hormone of pregnancy. That is exactly what it is there for, is to make your body prepared to be pregnant and then normal levels of progesterone help to maintain normal pregnancies. So if you are pregnant, your progesterone levels are already really high, so you may not need to worry about it. Alyssa, same thing about the use of Progessence Plus with not just an IUD. Well, okay, let me take a step back. You need to differentiate. There are two different kinds of IUDs. There is a copper IUD and there is a plastic IUD. The plastic IUDs emit drug. The copper IUDs, sperm, when they reach an egg, they meet a calcium ion. So remember how we talked about calcium ions are positively charged at the beginning of this call? That positive charge triggers what's called the acrosomal reaction. And that, so if I'm the little head of a sperm, I hit the egg, I basically explode an outer layer that releases a lot of acid that makes it easier for me to dig my head into the egg. That's how copper IUDs work. Copper IUDs have a positive 2 charge and they just blow up all the sperm. So you need to look and see. So if you have a Mirena, you have a plastic drug emitting IUD. That's the much more common one. A lot of women within Young Living go for the copper option just because there's no drug attached to it. But the risk that you accept is that there's a higher risk of pelvic inflammatory disease. So that's why plastic is the much more common. So if you are on a drug-eluting intrauterine device, such as Mirena, you've already got artificially inflated levels of progesterones and estrogens. So there may not be a need to supplement with any of the Progessence Plus. Totally up to you if you feel like it helps you, but you probably don't need it. One big thing that I see happening with Progessence Plus, people drink it. I mean, there's nothing dangerous in there, but it is labeled for topical use for a good reason. And that's because progesterone absorption is much, much higher across the skin than it is across the digestive tract. So just don't waste your money and don't use it off label. Use it as it's intended to be used on the soft skin of your body. Okay, so our next table is products that you probably want to use some caution with in infants less than 1 year old. So, protect yourself. If people ask you this question, encourage them to look at the products that are intended for use in children less than 1 year old. So look at the seedlings line. People ask me all the time about using products in their infants, including opening capsules, sprinkling them on food. So there are 2 products that I've included on this. There could really be a safety risk for you. Multigreens and mineral essence both contain bee-based ingredients, and bee pollen, honey, bee propolis. Children under the age of 1, their immune system is not built effectively enough to not recognize that these are, they recognize them as foreign invaders. And so they can have massive allergic reactions. And that's why if you go to your local grocery store and you pick up a thing of honey, it says do not feed honey to children less than 1 year old. You don't want to give supplements to children that, that they may have these reactions to as well. Most parents would also probably avoid, I wouldn't give my little kid Comfortone. It's too much on them. It's too much. I personally would not give my child, especially a prepubescent child, anything with DHEA, pregnenolone. I mean, why we gotta force them to grow up? Can't their hormones just kick in naturally? Like, this will kick in some hormones, y'all. Like, these are not benign supplements. So, I personally, it's up to you what you would do, but I personally wouldn't also use anything with the ashwagandha root. Wintergreen and then sleep essence are an interesting discussion. So let's start with the sleep essence. So sleep essence as well as ImmuPro should be added to this list. ImmuPro and sleep essence both contain melatonin. And melatonin is it's great for adults to use on a regular basis. In adults, it doesn't seem to matter. But in children, if you give them melatonin supplementation on a daily basis, you may also block their own natural melatonin synthesis. So you don't want to overuse melatonin supplements in children. So in adults, like I said, if you need sleep essence or something like ImmuPro on a regular basis, that's okay. But the more that you can avoid it in children, the better. Okay, wintergreen. Salicylates of all kinds are affiliated with something called Ray's syndrome. So are a lot of other things, fevers, vaccines, just exposures to a wide variety of things can be associated with Ray's syndrome, which is just a fever, kind of out of it syndrome. So if parents want to be super conservative, you may want to avoid all of the supplements that have wintergreen in them. For the supplement, like, not supplement, but the over-the-counter medicine like aspirin, that is pretty strongly associated with Ray's syndrome, you probably want to avoid use of that at least until they're 12, possibly even 16 years old. You may be a bit more lenient on your supplementation just because there's a little bit less of the salicylate in it, but you do want to keep your wintergreen essential oil out of reach of your toddler. That's not something that you want them drinking down. It can be risky in children, not only because of the Ray's syndrome, but also just because of the bleeding risk. Their little bodies, it just doesn't take as much oil. Okay, I'm going to power through this last chart, and let me check for some questions. Linda, which supplement are you talking about for mom? So if you're talking about the bees and things like that, that's an interesting question because I have not specifically researched what the question I would have to ask to answer that is, do immune markers from the bee ingredients pass into mom's breast milk? I know that positive immune markers do. Like, I know mom gives immunoglobulins and all of that to baby via breast milk, but I've never thought. So if I think about it, I've never seen a case report of like mom takes a drug while nursing, baby has same allergic reaction. I've never seen that bit of data. However, I would need to look further to form an opinion on the matter. For DHEA, Progessence Plus, essential oils, etc., here is the answer to go to. So we know that somewhere, but some amount of whatever is in your bloodstream is going to make it into the breast milk. It's somewhere about 1 to maybe 10% of an essential oil constituent. With DHEA, it wouldn't be necessarily the DHEA I'd be worried about getting there. I'd be worried more about passing more of the testosterones, because I mean, DHEA and testosterone, estrogens, all of that, I mean, they're just fats. They're coming anywhere that's fatty, and milk's going to be fatty. Progestins Plus is actually one that women have had a lot of great experiences with while nursing. Your progesterone levels really plummet after you give birth. And so that can be one that's great for someone to use. So if someone's worried about, you know, things coming into their breast milk, they just have to be okay with approximately 1 to 10% of whatever is whatever's in their breast, whatever's in their bloodstream coming into their breast milk. So, all right, let's power through this last table. We've probably got about maybe 10, 15 more minutes left. You guys doing okay out there? Okay, good. I see lots of furious writing, so that's always a good sign. Okay, so last thing, everybody wants to know, what time of day do I take my supplements? My real answer to this question is the time when you remember them. That's when you take your supplements. You know, I said it the other day online. If you were to tell me, Lindsay, I need you to remember to do something 3 times a day, and it was something other than like eat, or something that my body was like, hey, go pee, you know, gave me some strong signals there, I'm not going to remember to do anything 3 times a day. But if you want to have some general strategies, these are my general strategies. Now, that said, you are more than welcome to disagree with my general strategies. I had somebody reach out to me today and say, Super B makes me exhausted. And I'm like, great, take it at night. If I took Super B at night, I would be up all night long. So you've got to listen to your body's chemistry. So things that I think you should take in the morning. Thyromin. I think thyromin is important to take in the morning. Thyroid hormone is a really like, hey, let's go get them kind of hormone. And so if you are directly supplementing with desiccated thyroid as well as desiccated adrenals, I think that it follows the natural pattern of when we normally have surges in our body. I know the label says take it at night. I encourage you to experiment both ways and figure out what works for you. Ningxia Red I put in this category just because that's when I remember to take it. And so just be sure to get that in every morning. Ningxia Zing and Ningxia Nitro both contain caffeine. Sleek Citrus Slim is labeled really specifically to be a twice-a-day supplement, so you need to take your first dose in the morning. And then, as I said, Super B is one of those like Speedy Gonzalez kind of supplements for me. So I can't take it in the evening. Your second dose of your Citrus Slims always going to come in the evening. Bedtime, take your things that have melatonin in them at bedtime. So things like Sleep Essence and ImmuPro. And then Life 9, those probiotics do best when you take them right before bed. And that's because you don't have any food in your belly. When you have food in your belly, it increases acid. And when you increase acid, you can potentially destroy the bacteria. I mean, again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist here, y'all. Digestive enzymes should be taken around the time of a meal. So Essential Zymes is specifically designed to be used 30 minutes before the meal because it contains betaine hydrochloride, and that hydrochloride helps to put acid in your stomach when it needs it the most. So this is a great supplement to take 30 minutes before the meal. Essential Zymes 4, Detox Zyme, Mighty Zyme, Sulfur Zyme, Omega Gize, Master Formula. you know, taking these before or after a meal. You can also include things like inner defense, longevity. All of your heavy duty essential oil supplements can also fit into this category. So the reason that you have things like omega Gi's and inner defense, digest and cleanse, longevity is because these products work, can be really upsetting to the tummy just because it is so much essential oil. Omega Gi's also, you can burp it back up, which is an unpleasant experience, and taking it with food can help to decrease those symptoms. Master Formula is a supplement that is more readily absorbed when you take it with a meal. And so let's just take it with a meal, get the maximum vitamin and mineral supplementation that we can. In my opinion, Thyromin should be taken on an empty stomach. Life 9 for sure on an empty stomach. And then things that are providing calories, Pure Protein Complete, Sleek Shake, those can be on an empty stomach. I know lots of people use Pure Protein Complete after a workout as well. Things like Amino Wise are also really great after a workout. That's something I need to add to this table. I'd never even thought until I just started talking to you. But Amino Wise is specifically labeled to be taken after a workout, and Pure Protein Complete is also good at that point. Sleek Shake is a meal replacement shake, as is Balance Complete, and so you can use those on an empty stomach. There are some products that it's really important to take with a full glass of water. Sleek Citrus Slim is one of them, just because water is just going to help you feel fuller longer and help those key ingredients in Citrus Slim work better. Things with fiber. You don't want to get constipated from taking your fiber. So ICP, Juva Power, all those up above that I listed that had fiber, be sure to remember those. Things that are actually great to take throughout the day are your calcium supplements. So calcium reaches a maximum absorption capacity in your stomach. And once you reach that capacity, you simply can't absorb any more. And so why take it all at one time? Just simply take small amounts throughout the day and absorb it throughout the day. Juvatone, if you support your liver throughout the day, that's the way it's labeled to be used. I take my Juvatone first thing in the morning. Juvatone is, if you know somebody that has trouble swallowing, Juvatone is not the supplement for them. This one's hard to get down, even for me, and I'm a really good supplement taker. And so just be aware that Juvatone it's tough to get down because it's a big and very smelly caplet. And then sulfurzyme is the other one to take throughout the day. And then what supplements may not be necessary to use together? So if you're taking Master Formula, you're really not going to need your Super B and Super C unless you want to just use it for a little bit. So we've gotten through this document, so congrats to us. So I see 3 more questions come in, so I will answer these 3 and then we will be done for the evening. Tracy, great question. Is wintergreen concerned for internal use only? No, no, no. It is also for external use. So if you're thinking about using it in the ortho-ease on your 3-year-old, great. I probably wouldn't do like a full body daily massage with it, but you are already taking safety precautions. You are already using it in a dilute form, and you're using it on a small amount of the body. So if your 3-year-old, if there's a spot on his legs or her legs that you feel like needs the ortho-ease more than the others, maybe just start there and then maybe see how they do. And then just as you would an adult, monitor for the signs and symptoms of bleeding. And so, you know, any pink in the sink when they're brushing their little teeth, or when they're, if they bruise a little bit more easily, And then using a small amount's the way to do it. If you choose not to use it because of the wintergreen, it's super easy to make your own DIY massage oil that doesn't contain wintergreen for your kids. All right, now another question. So the omega Jis and the fish fur, putting it in the fridge, can you do the same with inner defense to help with the oregano burps? The worst, right? The big thing I think you need to do is, number one, take it with food. You can certainly try to put it in the fridge, see if that helps. Helps it dissolve a little bit further down the GI tract. You can give both of those things a shot. So, any final questions before we get off the phone call? So just as a reminder, our next class, so the last Tuesday of next month, I will be in, well, the last Tuesday of next month is Halloween, so I figured everybody might have some things going on. The second to last one, I will have just landed from a 3-week journey to 5 cities in Southeast Asia. So I will be in no condition to teach a 2-hour class at the end of the evening. So we will do our next class on October the 26th. We're going to go really in depth with Master Formula. Master Formula has so many ingredients that differentiate it from other multivitamins out there that I have built it into an entire one hour and 10-minute long class. And so people ask me, they're like, we want you to come to our event. We want you to talk about Master Formula and this and that and this and that. And what I've realized is I've never been able to convey every single way that Master Formula is different and special from other multivitamins. And so I really think we will have a great time. So I hope that you are following me on Instagram and Facebook at The Pharmacist ALA. You can follow along with my, you can follow along there throughout my entire journey through all these cities and me seeing all the Young Living members. All right, I see several more questions comes in. Thank you for saying almond milk helps with the burps. That's another thing to try. Micah, it's not bad that you put Progessence Plus on the roof of your mouth, but it's going to be better absorbed across your arm. So just don't, you know, unless you have a prescription medicine specifically labeled as a mouth spray, progesterone is better absorbed across your skin. So you're just wasting the money is the big thing. Master Formula, should you have your 54-year-old husband take Master Formula? Yes. Does Progessence Plus cause a testosterone to drop? Not necessarily. You're going way up on the chain. So we talked about pregnenolone. Remember, you can go to progesterone after that. Progesterone can drive many different directions. And so don't worry about that. Is there a limit to the maximum number of supplements you consume at any one time? Well, you want to bear in mind. So when you're thinking about that question, keep in mind the first table and the last table. What do we want to avoid overuse of? Vitamins A, D, E, K, Comfortone, iodine. What do we probably not need supplementation together with? We probably don't need Master Formula alongside Super B, Super C, because and Super C chewables would go in that as well, just because you've already got such high levels on there. So yeah, great questions, everybody. So I will see you all. Give me a day or two and we will have this posted on the website. Again, if you want to go back and review this, we have, just go to the watch tab on the website. A lot of people have written to me and asked me to please be sure to post all of the all of the handouts from previous things. So it's a long tale, not worth telling, but we had a major coding problem, and I've got a new team that are rock stars. We can't fix this coding problem without making absolutely massive transitions that won't allow us to lock down the content, meaning that unfortunately the content that you so kindly paid for, somebody else might be able to go and grab it online for free. The good news is we have a fully integrated solution for January. And so we won't have to do this back and forth of all these emails and all the logins and all the downloads. It's all going to be in one self-contained space. And as I said, you will be grandfathered in. If you have an annual subscription, you will be grandfathered in for an entire year for the new content. And if you have a monthly subscription, you will be grandfathered into the new content for a month, and then have the option to pick where you want to go, because there's going to be one option that remains at the $9.99 a month, and there is a new premium option that basically gives access to everything on the site for $29.99 a month. Angela, we're going to have loads of great marketing. So watch my social media. You're going to see some previews of the new website starting to come out in the next month. And you will start to see, the content transition in January. So it's really thrilling. It's been 3 months in the background working on it. And so I'm really excited. It's a totally new, hip, cool vibe. So, all right, everybody, I will see you in 30 days. Thank you so much for joining me live. It makes it so special. And I will see you after I have been to 6 cities and 5 countries. So I'll see you in 30 days. Bye, everybody.